Big J's beef. What's up, guys? Big J here. So you're probably asking yourself, Jay, why are you wearing a Superman t-shirt? My response to that would be, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we're going to talk about the tragedy that is known as Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. So if you remember, a couple weeks ago, I talked about Star Trek Insurrection, which was the follow-up to a good Star Trek movie and showed us what happens when you try to take a good Star Trek movie that has good humor, good story, and try to follow that up by trying too hard to be funny. So that takes us way back to the first movie that accomplished that task, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Off the heels of Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, which the movie was called it's the one with the whales. Go on the streets, ask anybody if they knew anything about Star Trek, and they're going to say the one with the whales. Everyone knows that one. Okay. Voyage Home, great movie, spectacular, very funny. Then you get Star Trek V, which is not so much. Tried to push that humor, wasn't really that good. So here's the beef that I have with Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. First of all, the reason that we got this movie in the first place was because of a contract that was in place for both Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner, which was basically whatever Leonard Nimoy gets, William Shatner gets, and vice versa. Because naturally they didn't want to be outdone by each other. So as part of the contract for Leonard Nimoy directing Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, and Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, contractually, William Shatner would have the option to direct a movie himself. So that is why we got this movie, which I think was not so good. And in fact, before Star Trek Nemesis, Star Trek V, The Final Frontier was the lowest grossing Star Trek movie. And this is what happens when you have directors, writers, producers, whatever it is, when you have someone filling in a role based on a contractual obligation. That is why we had Shatner directing this movie. Now, granted, it probably seemed like a good idea on paper at first. I can't imagine how or why, but this is what we got. Now, I would like to have seen the rock monster that we were supposed to get as the finale to this movie. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the rock monster, you're going to have to look it up. It's ridiculous. And the other thing that we were supposed to get was where we got the name Shakari, which was what Sybok, Spock's half-brother, called the planet they were going to, the Vulcans' version of heaven, came from Sean Connery, which was, he was an actor that they tried to get for the part that Sybok was playing. And if you thought you were getting Sean Connery, then come on, really? So instead, we've got this crazy Vulcan dude on a quest to find some crazy, naturally, a planet that has more of a alien of the week type protagonist. Well, I don't know if I want to call the quote unquote God in this movie protagonist, but turned out to be just another alien. Essentially, that was a bad guy. Now, if you ask me, I think having a Star Trek movie that depicts God as some crazy alien is so much Star Trek that it makes me say, and you guessed it, what the fuck?
Where's the beef?
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your ears. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.